Hello everyone, Thaddeus here. So today is going to be an unscripted testimony, and the theme is going to revolve around the anniversary of me being out of Watchtower. So to start off with a recap, I was a pioneer and a ministerial servant. I was born into the organization. I was baptized at the age of 10, which I'm not sure if I've talked about that before. I'll make a video about that at some point if anyone's interested. I was a full-time pioneer for 6 years. I was a ministerial servant for about 2 years. And I was a continuous auxiliary or very regular in the ministry, even sometimes to the point of pioneer hours or auxiliary pioneer hours without having the title for years beforehand. I was, back when we had quick builds, I was involved with quick builds as much as a kid can be in the local areas. I remember visiting the build sites, helping with small projects here and there and everything. I had a two-parent household. I was I guess, third generation witness, technically speaking. Uh, my grandparents were the first ones to show interest in and come into the organization on my mother's side and sort of on my father's side as well. And my father came in when he was a teenager, my mother as well, a couple years younger than he was. So it was a full witness family. Now, witnesses all know there's different grades within Watchtower of association, and it's unofficial. Of course, there is the official term bad association, but it's relatively arbitrary as to what that can mean, varying from congregation to congregation, of course. So I would, I guess, for the most part, grade my family as A or A minus witness family. I have one older adopted brother who I have not seen in a very long time, and that's another subject I don't believe I've talked about on the channel yet. And there were people in the congregation that I was quite close to, where they are your community, they do become your family in a way. And I don't know. I guess it was the only life I'd ever known. And that was part of the reason why I think it took me so long to realize that I was awake. I became fully awake in the month of October 2021. Early October was when I finally had done enough research, found enough information, records, letters, testimonies, and seen enough up to that point to realize that I could no longer be a part of this society and no longer wanted to. Now, was I just looking for an excuse to leave? No, I actually, for years, I would make every excuse to stay. I spent under other names. I actually was in the online space for years as a witness apologeticist, as a defender of the Bible and of God, in my own mind, in my own way, at the time, according to my knowledge. And for the most part, I could hold my own, even as a witness. Most strongly when it came to debating about the Bible, archaeology, or various fields of, social or natural sciences. But when it came to defending the society, it mostly relied on my own ignorance of a lot of things and just the general, the same old witness deflections and the assumption that, well, it must be like a local issue or it can't be a systematic issue, of course. And I used a lot of the standard defenses and tactics, but it did disturb my spirit that in order to defend the society, defend Watchtower or Jehovah's Witnesses, if that's what you want to call it, I try to be careful with how I speak. So when I say Watchtower, I specifically mean the corporation, plural, the society, as the entity that it is. I'm not necessarily referring to individual or general Jehovah's Witnesses. If I say Jehovah's Witnesses or rank and file, or speak of an individual, that's different. But when I say Watchtower, I'm not necessarily talking about the people that support the corporate entity. Though defending that was very difficult when presented with certain information, and I found I had to start being dishonest. And that is when I pulled myself out of that space. I kind of retired from it for the most part when it bothered me that I had to start using what I now know the society would call theocratic warfare. In Islam, there's a few different kinds of this. The most commonly known is called taqiyya, and witnesses kind of have the same thing, where deception, omission, or even lies is okay because of the noble cause corruption idea. That because your intentions are supposedly good, that your goals are supposedly good, that it's okay to compromise in this way. Now, defending doctrine, for the most part, oddly enough, I never encountered um, anyone that really hammered on the 1914 issue, so I'm not sure how I would have handled that, which is surprising to me, because that is, as far as archaeological evidence, timing, and even reading a couple key verses in the Book of Kings, it's very easy to disprove. But I don't recall ever actively encountering someone that had a strong argument against it, which is strange because it's very simple. The date is wrong. For the sacking of Jerusalem, which the Chaldean actions were over a number of years, but we're not here to get into that. So, where I could pretty effectively defend the core witness doctrines, um, afterlife, resurrection, paradise, or a restored earth, um, who witnesses teach Jesus is. For a witness, I could do that. But going beyond that, I found the society's explanations for a lot of things to be very lacking in the insight volumes, in the different brochures that they put out. So my own search for, counter arguments, new information, better apologetics led me to outside sources. And this is where the gears really started turning because I came to realize that there are plenty of people out there who are true believers, who know a lot, who are very powerful and quick with scripture, who come up with amazing reasoning and arguments, who are linguists, cultural experts, or scientists that are advocates of intelligent design. I learned that there's a lot of very useful data outside of the society. Now, how I never got in trouble for this, I'm not sure, because maybe I was put on apostate watch. I don't know. But it was not a secret that I researched things outside of the society's literature, which is technically a witness no-no, and maybe a lot of witnesses are unaware that this is technically against the rules. That Watchtower, the writing department, their research department, whatever it's called, now is allowed to, but rank and file witnesses aren't really supposed to, or it can be considered suspicious behavior. But I never actively got in trouble for it. Maybe that was part of what held me back in the witness hierarchy for so long? I don't know. We can theorize. But eventually I had to stop these online debates and apologetics and just pulled back because it was getting exhausting at the time and it was opening my eyes to some things. Now, I do want to say it's a good thing I didn't at the time because I would have had a hard time with things, but I probably could have woken up a lot sooner. Except that, and I have no interest in drama for drama's sake. I don't want to call anybody out. I really just want to do my thing. But there's a lot of channels and XJW resources where the way that they talk, the way that they present themselves, how they come across, it's going to repel people. What I mean, like harsh sarcasm, harsh language, um, direct attacks on witnesses. Like there's one channel in particular, I consider them to be an invaluable source of information from an insider perspective. But the way that they talk sometimes, well, even if it technically correct, not to say that it's wrong from his point of view, but it's hypercritical and extremely insulting. So for a witness that's maybe trying to poke their head out of the shell and question, if they were to come across content like that, I can see how it could actually pull them back into the shell. This was kind of an experience that I had where a number of years ago, I was kind of getting exposed to what the society calls apostate information. And one of the videos I came across, the way that it was presented, it kind of did that to me. What it did essentially was it kind of validated some aspects of what the Watchtower said about these apostates. They're just hateful, spiteful, liars, angry. Now, the space back then was not nearly as saturated as it is today, and the society, at least on the surface, was a very different society. But I kind of wonder if the information in the video had been presented in a different way, with a different tone, a different feel, how might I have reacted? Now, I know how I might have reacted because of different experiences I had in the ministry. So, obviously, as witnesses, you go in the door to door work. At least it did go in the door to door work, assuming it doesn't get shut down again or what have you. And the people that were aggressive, angry, rude, insulting, use foul language, everything like that, it just enforced the persecution complex that I had as a witness because that's what we are trained. We are trained to the point that even just actual criticism, like real, legitimate criticism of the Watchtower and the Society, is just persecution. It's just attacks, and this is not the case. But there was one, and I didn't get the impression that she was a witness or ever was a witness. She didn't say she was. But not long before the lockdowns, maybe a few months, um, I met her in the ministry. She asked if I was a witness. Of course, I was. And for probably about 40 minutes, we were kind of going back and forth at the door. And the way that she was, where it was not aggressive, and she was like, I feel really sorry for you because you're in a cult and everything. And of course, I, being physically and mentally mostly in at the time, I'm trying to toe the line. And she asked me, who do you serve? And I gave my honest answer, which is technically probably a disfellowshipping offense, where I said, the Lord Jesus Christ, and not men. Oh, not the governing body. She probably had the impression that I was not the average witness, but just the fact that she wasn't aggressive and insulting and sarcastic and scathing and everything, that sat with me a lot better than other experiences I had had. So that's why I try. I mean, and I've worked on it, I have a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. I have tried hard to turn it into something that's not. Hmm, I was trained to have a very sharp tongue, very quick with the quips, with the jokes, and everything, and I could be really. I, I, I could be an asshole. So I've tried to train myself out of not being like that. So just trying to think about what would have helped me to wake up sooner. And I think I woke up at a decent time. And it, of course, was in or during the lockdown, where things were progressing in a direction that very much did not sit well with me. Actually made me sick to my stomach. Very anxious for a while. Um, and it was the Watchtower's own actions, articles, and teachings that eventually ended up driving me out. Um, where I just started making these connections with a lot of things, like a lot of these things can't really be supported in the Bible. And then, they got rid of what they called the book study when it was kind of, I guess it was a book study, but way back when, 90s and through the 2000s, it was more of a Bible study. Then it became more of a book study when they started calling it the Congregation Bible Study. That's kind of funny to me, but um, the yeah. So they got rid of that because people were getting too close and they were talking about things. They were actually studying and they got to, you know, talk about doctrine and changes and other things. And then there were other circumstances that were happening as regards witnesses where nothing involved with the Bible, but we don't need to talk about that. And it turned into a snowball. So now when I try to respond to witnesses or ex-witnesses or the various witness defenders and everything like that, I have to, like, they don't understand. I'm not opening up the spigot fully because it's overwhelming. But the Watchtower drove me to do this research, and it just compounded and it snowballed. You know how you roll a snowball down the hill and it picks up more snow and it gets larger, and eventually, if it keeps going, it'll collapse under its own weight. That's kind of what happened to me, where once I saw what I needed to see, once I started doing the actual research, I saw my whole world collapse in on itself. And I knew I couldn't remain here anymore as it was. And I do feel that there are reasons that people can stay, and I understand. Those are not my circumstances. But your whole family, your community, your livelihood, because you probably work for or with witnesses, or have witnesses working for you. Um, yeah, I understand why people stay in, and then additionally they kind of undermine the society. I stayed in for 3 months, and I might have been willing to stick around longer, but there were others around that wanted to leave, and they'd been awake for longer than I was, and they were anxious to leave, and we all wanted to make a statement together. So that's what we did. It was either January 1st or January 2nd. It was a Sunday. We sent out our letters to the elders, the body of elders, And then Monday night, we sent out our letters, our general letters to the general public. So in our letters to the elders, we gave no sign of any intention to send out other letters. So I wanted to do it all at once because I felt I wanted to make sure that the information got out there. But it's kind of funny. Within a day, and this is, I tried to warn them that it's going to spread around the circuit into other circuits like a wildfire. And it did. We already got calls that day, that night, from people in other congregations, which it's an amazing, the Witness Grapevine Information Distribution Network. When I was in service, I knew things in people's lives from several states over just because of, the town crier or the gossip girls and everything just talking away. Um, and it's like, I didn't need to know this. Is it even true? Oh, I don't know. But that's the Witness Information Distribution Network is very strong, and a lot of people don't understand how tightly knit the Witness community is. Um, so yeah, that Monday I got it's funny, I got a message from someone who's still kind of technically in. They're like, I heard that you were distributing apostate material. And I honestly said, I don't believe so. He said something about letters, can I see them? So I sent them to him, and he was like, I don't see anything apostate in here. I was like, nope. Um, but yeah, and that was a strange. Of course, the announcement was Thursday night. Oh, that was a stressful week. Um, and I got the announcement on video. And that Friday morning was so strange. It was a snowstorm day, and I got let go from my job or my primary contracting work by the witness that I work for in a text that morning. And I just took a walk. I took a walk in the snow around the local neighborhood area, just thinking about stuff, realizing that I was free. I'd been cut loose. So everybody, my Instagram account, which I'm never have been, and I'm not big on social media, but my Instagram account, I saw the follower count drop. I had someone send me a before and after picture because they were planning for it. I didn't ask for it, they just did it. Um, and everything, so I changed my bio and logged out of the account. It's a dead account, don't use it anymore. Um, everything I saw, a bunch of people had blocked me because there's ways you can tell, like in messages and with profile pics and with searches and everything like that. Oh, and I don't know, they felt like that's what they needed to do, but I don't know. It's a dead account. I called it a mausoleum, which it was to an old life. Um, yeah, so I was free of the chains of the Watchtower, and it felt good not having the fear, the obligation, the guilt, not having to tiptoe and hide and pretend. And that was something I always hated, and it's necessary if you're a member of the Watchtower. You're not allowed and you can't be who you really are in Watchtower. You have to be who they want you to be, who they say you're supposed to be. And for me, I found it fascinating. I just had the realization a few days ago that my entertainment, for the most part in childhood, was gaming. And of course, there was, hikes and uh, airsoft and baseball and biking. And then when I was a teenager, the gym. but my primary go-to was gaming. And I would lose myself in these other worlds. So one of them being Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls 3, 2002 game. I just lost myself in this alien world with an alien culture, history, lore, religion, and same with Oblivion, kind of not as much. But in these games and RuneScape, in these games, I was free to be who I was. I could pursue what I wanted, I could hang out with who I wanted, I could say what I wanted, and it was my choice. And I was still, in general, who I was as a witness, but I was free of the obligation and the chains, even though I was still me. And I got to meet a lot of people. Clash of Kings. I just met people from all over the world. Um, Men, women, Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, UK, France, Yemen, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, different US states. It was very neat. Um, all those people, I learned people in general are just people. They have certain needs, wants, desires, and of course there's scumbags out there. But in RuneScape and Clash of Kings and everything like that, I learned most people in general are decent. Now, I don't want to use the terms good and evil here in this context. Most people are just people, decent. Now, as I'm still a believer, I believe that's because mankind, the race of mankind, is made with the ability to reflect inherent good traits found in God and in Yeshua. I believe we can be, pulled, tainted, corrupted, traumatized, or bound and interfered with. But in general, mankind is decent, especially in a vacuum. A lot of influences we have now, the debt-based financial system, the, you know, evil corporate governments, the I don't know if I want to say this because yeah, I've already been slapped. So just influences, let's say, that are out there. Minus those the dangers of those influences, the world would be a much more beautiful place. But yeah, I was just able to be myself with these people, form friendships, watch each other's back, learn, grow together. So I got a taste of freedom in this digital space, being able to explore and just do things I didn't have the resources or opportunity to do as a witness. And it's not just witnesses that use this escapism. Um, just to have a break from their normal lives. But for witnesses, it's especially important because we have all of the same stresses that everyone does with work and bills and probably debt and family and obligations. And then we have the society as well that's drawing on our time. So for witnesses, it's especially important to have some kind of outlet. Unfortunately, a lot of witnesses choose prescription drugs, alcohol, and food as their outlets. For me, it was more gaming, and then during the lockdown, eventually it did become alcohol. And of course, I was the being a educated or intelligent abuser. I knew enough to take activated charcoal so that most of the toxins in the liquors or the wine would be absorbed by the charcoal. so that I could be brown-eyed and bushy-tailed next morning for Zoom service or what have you. Um, it, that's why I never have actually experienced a hangover, and I've only drank enough to get actually legitimately drunk once. That was, I think that was was that the night that I woke up fully to the society, or was that the next night? I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, an entire 1.5 liter bottle of 18% and some rum and tequila and whiskey, and then I think maybe whatever was left of another bottle of wine, red wine that I had in my fridge, and that finally managed to do it. Um, but I still didn't get a hangover because I took the activated charcoal. Um, and once I got out of Watchtower in the Society, now I rarely drink, and I don't feel the desire to. I don't have that pressing burden of wanting to escape, of needing that outlet. I'm no longer addicted and reliant to caffeine. I mean, there's even a running joke in the pioneers that coffee was called liquid Holy Spirit, and all it does is it suppresses adenosine reception. It provides you the illusion of being awake. But eventually, I started mixing coffee and kratom because I was just so exhausted all the time. Like there was one summer, I had a job at a bakery that I would work during the day, and then I would go do a custodial job in the night, and then from the custodial job for a school district, I would go to do carpet cleaning at night for a brother. I was exhausted um, with that, and that can just generally describe witness life because it is a salvation by works religion, and it's never enough. Sorry about that. Probably looks a little weird. I had to step away for a moment. So I became reliant on stimulants to get through the day, um, and eventually caffeine just stopped working. So I figured I built up too much of a tolerance. I'll go cold turkey. Worst headache I've ever had in my life. That was a miserable week, but I actually broke my reliance on caffeine. Probably after about 2 weeks, I started feeling better again. And I just don't feel the need. I went completely off of any kind of stimulant for a while. Now I might have a little bit if I'm going to be working, throughout the day. But I don't have that addiction, that reliance anymore on caffeine and video games and alcohol. So I guess that's part of my update in life of how am I doing. I'm no longer addicted to many of the things that I had reliances on before. I just don't feel the need. It's an amazing kind of freedom. How would I illustrate it? Ah, yes. So, you know how you're not supposed to go grocery shopping hungry, right? Well, if you make sure to eat before you go grocery shopping, it's much easier to walk by all of these aisles of, snacks and whatnot because you don't have the hunger. And it's fascinating is I just don't have the hunger anymore for these things that I was so reliant on. Oh, he who the Christ has made free is free indeed. And I, for the most part, feel good. Still have it. It's still been a rough year for other reasons, but it feels good to be free of the fear, the obligation, the guilt. not having that I need to get up and go out in service and it's raining cats and dogs outside because I need to get a certain amount of time or I'm going to get spoken to, you know, and counseled. Or I need to make sure I bust my butt to get my work done on Thursday or Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever it is, to make sure to attend the midweek meeting, to hear the same things you've heard 1,000 times. I guess I'm probably gonna have to do a two-parter, but in summary, it feels good to be free of the constant criticism, judgment, and the box of their worldview and their doctrine. Be able to grow and expand, learn who you are without, the threat of the secret police looking over your shoulder. And you choose and not have it chosen for you. And boy, it does feel good. I don't want this to get too long, so I'm going to wrap it up now. Um, I do want to say I'm exploring editing software. So I'm doing research. Caveman is doing research. I hate technology. I think am I technically, yeah, I'm technically a millennial. I don't like technology, don't care for social media. Um, but I'm learning because I want to improve the quality of my content. So I'm doing research on that and looking forward to experimenting with some things. Other than that, I might be having some interviews. So still gotta figure out a confirmation with that. But that's the first part of my anniversary of being free of the Watchtower update. Um, I hope that it spoke to you. Hope that it was useful, helpful, or entertaining. And I hope you all have a good night.